The Hungarian Grand Prix was meant to be a chance for redemption, a shot at momentum before the summer break. But what unfolded left fans speechless, and Lewis Hamilton broke in a way we've rarely seen. It wasn't just a bad race. It wasn't just another disappointing Sunday. No, this was something deeper, something personal. As the checkered flag dropped and Hamilton's Ferrari crawled across the line at P12, over 70 seconds behind the leaders, the silence on the team radio was chilling. For a few moments, nothing. No congratulatory tone, no routine bring-it-home message, just the static hum of disbelief. And then came the voice. Hamilton's tone? Calm, but not the kind of calm you associate with peace. It was the kind of calm that comes after you've already given up trying to be heard. I really don't know what to say anymore. This car is just not drivable. That's all. He said. 9 words. But they cut deeper than any dramatic outburst. Because if you've followed Hamilton's career, you know that when he's silent, he's screaming inside. This wasn't your typical frustrated radio rant. This wasn't raw aggression. This was resignation, disbelief, a quiet fury that fans noticed immediately. Social media lit up. Lewis sounds done. That wasn't a complaint. That was a cry for help. He's trying not to throw them under the bus, but we can all see it. You could feel the collective pulse of the F1 world shift in that moment. This wasn't just a failed setup. This was a rupture. Think about it. This is Lewis Hamilton, the 7-time world champion, a man who once dragged a struggling Mercedes to podiums through sheer will, a man who used to bounce back after setbacks with unmatched determination. But Hungary felt different. It didn't feel like a dip. It felt like a breaking point. Some insiders claimed that the radio message was just the tip of the iceberg, that behind closed doors, Hamilton was far less composed, that after the race, voices were raised, and when the engineers tried to walk through the data, he refused to engage. What's the point if nothing changes? Allegedly, those were the words he used. Let that sink in. Hamilton, the ever-professional, the team player, saying that. It was raw. It was real. And it shook the very foundation of Ferrari's dream project. Because if this is how Hamilton feels in race 13 of the season, what does that say about the road ahead? The truth is, this radio message wasn't just an outburst. It was a message, a coded warning, and Ferrari knows it. They know that when Lewis starts going quiet, the world starts asking questions, the media starts digging, the fans start speculating, and pressure, the kind Maranello hasn't seen since Vettel's final year, begins to mount. So the question is, how did it get this bad? How did a team with one of the greatest drivers of all time, a team fueled by hype, history, and hundreds of millions fall apart so completely, so publicly, in just a few months? To understand the answer, we have to go back, not just to qualifying, not just to the race start, but to Friday morning, when everything began to fall apart, quietly, subtly, and fatally. Because this wasn't an explosion, it was a slow leak. To understand the disaster that was the Hungarian Grand Prix, we need to rewind the tape. Go back, not to the race itself, but to the very beginning of the weekend. Because the signs were there. The breakdown didn't start at turn 1 on Sunday. It started Friday morning, in the garages of Ferrari. Quiet, subtle, but clear enough if you were watching closely. The buzz in the paddock was cautious optimism. Hungary's tight, twisty layout, a track that favors downforce over raw engine power, was supposed to be a golden opportunity. Ferrari's upgrades had shown minor promise in Silverstone. Hamilton had been unusually upbeat midweek. There were whispers, could this be the turning point? But within minutes of FP1, something was wrong. The car was bouncing unpredictably, under braking. The rear end was twitchy, and Hamilton, normally sharp and aggressive on new circuits, looked hesitant. Onboard cameras caught him fighting the steering wheel, just to keep the car pointed straight through turns 4 and 11. It wasn't just uncomfortable, it was unstable. By the time FP2 rolled around, the mood had shifted. Gone was the quiet confidence. In its place, confusion. We've changed the ride height twice, still no grip. We're way out of the operating window. The rear is completely unpredictable on corner exit. These weren't rookie-level complaints. These were red flags, the kind that signal a fundamental problem with the car's balance and setup. Hamilton, ever the professional, still went out for laps, but his body language told a different story. Slumped shoulders, long silences in the garage, and a particular moment. caught on broadcast, where he took off his helmet after a short run and just stared into space. Not anger, not frustration, exhaustion. It was the same expression you see when someone knows what's wrong, but has lost faith in fixing it. Meanwhile, the Ferrari garage wasn't handling things much better. There was frantic communication between the engineers and Maranello HQ. Telemetry wasn't matching simulations. The aero balance was inconsistent. And their rivals, they were watching and laughing. Red Bull engineers reportedly called the SF-5 a wind tunnel model with wheels. Even Aston Martin joked that Ferrari had upgraded themselves backwards. Harsh, maybe, but also accurate, because when Hamilton pushed for changes in FP3, requesting a reversion to an older setup that had performed better in Austria, the request was denied. Why? Because the team had already committed to a new rear suspension mapping, one that was built around Leclerc's driving style, not Hamilton's. Let that sink in. Ferrari, the team that pulled Hamilton away from Mercedes with promises of priority treatment in championship dreams, were now designing key elements of the car around another driver, and it showed. Leclerc looked far more at ease throughout the weekend, not blisteringly fast, but more stable, more confident, more in control, while Hamilton, he was fighting the car at every corner. Trail braking into Turn 1 looked like guesswork. Exit from Turn 5 was a lottery. By the time qualifying rolled around, everyone knew this wasn't just a rough Friday. This was a strategic failure. Hamilton's setup was fundamentally wrong. His feedback was being ignored, and the window to recover was already closing. What's worse, the team wasn't listening. He warned them about tire temperatures. He warned them about balance. He warned them about oversteer on corner exit. And every time, the response was the same. We believe it will come to us in qualifying. Spoiler alert, it didn't. Qualifying was the final nail. Q1, Hamilton scraped through. Q2, he barely made the cut. Q3, he couldn't even push. The rear end snap mid-corner on both his time laps. He aborted his final run before even reaching Sector 3, P1 to on the grid, behind both Aston Martins, behind an Alpine, behind Kevin Magnussen. Let that register. A 7-time world champion, driving for Ferrari, starting behind a Haas. And in the media pen afterward, Hamilton said little, just a few words. The car just doesn't feel like mine anymore. Oof, that sentence might sound simple, but in F1, that's a dagger. When a driver no longer connects with the car, it's like a pilot doubting his jet. It means confidence is gone. It means instinct is being overridden by fear. It means a crash, literal or metaphorical, is just around the corner, and it confirmed what many had feared. This weekend wasn't a fluke. It wasn't just bad luck. It was the natural result of weeks, maybe months, of strategic missteps, technical confusion, and a total mismatch between Hamilton's driving style and Ferrari's direction. So while fans and pundits were preparing for a poor race on Sunday, Lewis, he already knew how it would end. Because when you're fighting your own car, before the lights even go out, you've already lost the race. From the outside, a Formula 1